Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Easy Does It, a podcast created specifically for the amazing members of the MJ team. Rob and I are back with you again, excited for another great episode. As usual, we will have some do's news, and then we'll jump into our topic. But to get us started today, I hear Rob has a Would You Rather fit for October that I can wait, but yeah. I'm not going to wait to hear.
Did you just say we're back with you?
It's possible.
We're back.
You think I could probably do this part, this first part. I was just not really reading it. I think I could do it in my sleep now.
You probably have.
Welcome
I'll
back.
ask Michael. Okay, so would you rather for October? Man, I need to come up with some more creepy ones. This one's just one that's just like, this is not a good situation. Would you rather spend the night in a small raft in the middle of the sea, or spend the night in a house that's haunted?
Well, once again, going back to what I've reiterated for weeks now, neither one of these situations are ideal for me in any way, shape, or form. Probably not making it out. I'm going to have to say, I think I'm going to have to say the haunted house.
Really? What's got you running away from the ocean situation there?
Well, first of all, you said small raft, which makes me think this is like those movies where people get like they're out at sea for days. I am just in awe of their ability to survive in that situation. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of potentially a hopelessness associated with the ocean situation that I might have a hard time. Like at the haunted house, it's like the morning's going to come and I'm going to walk outside.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I wonder, too, is it like how haunted is it? I mean, this is always going to be me in these situations.
Would you really want to know how haunted it is, though?
I mean,
like Annabelle haunted? Like there's that one, there was a TV show I was watching and it was like most haunted things. And the Annabelle doll, have you seen that movie? Or, of course not. There's a movie called Annabelle and it's like a haunted doll and she just like ends up in weird places. But it's being, I guess like a spirit or a demon is controlling. I think that's what it was about. But apparently it's real. And these people bought this thing and put it in their like display case, and it's like all haunted items in this place. And so these guys like come in and they, at nighttime of course, they take their little spectral analyzer and walk around and they're like testing things to see if it's truly haunted. And like the case says, do not touch, do not open, all the things. They have a lot of other haunted stuff in there, but apparently that one was real. So would you want like, that full on haunted house, you could die, or would you just want to be like, yeah, it's haunted, or you can lay in a raft, whatever you want to do?
I mean, if it's just like, I guess that's why I want to, if it's like haunted, like it's just like some creaking and ghosts and there's some weird sounds, then potentially I can manage that. I'm still not sleeping.
Would it be worse
either way
if they were just like, hey, you can spend the night in a raft, a small raft in the ocean, or just spend the night in this house? Is that better?
Yeah.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
Until you start hearing noises.
Oh, yeah.
And then you start questioning, why this is an easy decision. Why did they do this?
Yeah, I just think there's something a little bit more, I don't know what the right word is, stationary for me about being in a house. I'm not sleeping in either one of these scenarios either way. So would I rather lay awake all night long and wonder if that's a great white bumping at my thing that could potentially chomp me in one bite? I mean, is the haunted house, am I going to, like, death? That seems like nothing's going to, like, get me with a chainsaw or anything like that. I hope.
Sure.
You were just telling that story about that doll, and I feel like my heart rate went up. So would be a really difficult thing for me. I still just don't think I can handle the vastness of the ocean.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough one, because just laying in a small raft, I just kind of envision one of those like 6 foot across little rubber yellow ones you're just laying in, and you just have to sit there and feeling the ocean moving there, and there's nothing around at night. It is like, I don't know if you've ever been at sea at night, where there's no...
On a cruise ship.
Okay, there you go. Well, at least there's light there, but like being in the middle of the ocean where there's nothing around, it is like pitch black. I mean, you have the moonlight, but if there's cloud cover, it is like black. Like you can't see anything.
Yeah, no. And then you don't know, it's just, there's not that there's not unknowns in a haunted house, but like, I think about all the things that live down in the ocean. Not that they're going to come up just especially for me, but who knows? Yeah, no, those types of movies, I mean, I've watched those movies before. No, I just don't. What was the one? I feel like that was Louis Zamperini?
Yeah, what movie was that?
Unbroken.
I was thinking of that movie, but I couldn't remember the name of it.
Yeah, like where they catch fish and they're eating them out there.
Trying to grab a bird and eat the bird.
Yes. That's a true story.
I know, that'd be tough. And then the people were coming in with the planes. I mean, you have nowhere to go. You have to get in the water, but it's shark-infested water.
Oh, my God.
It's not a good situation.
It's terrible. Okay, so what are you choosing? Haunted house?
I'm just going to say neither.
You can't do that. If I can't choose neither can you.
Oh, boy. I think I would probably choose the haunted house just because of exactly what you said, like just laying in a boat all night. And I don't think that I get seasick, but there have been a couple of times I've got on boats recently, and we went down, was it St. Thomas? Whatever we went to. We went down there, and we got on a large boat, but they were like flying, like going out on the ocean, and it was just like the whole time. And I'm just sitting there, and it's the first time I'm like, I feel like I'm going to throw up. And I just have to like stare at the horizon the whole time. And Charlie and Susie are talking to me. I'm just like, don't talk to me. I'm trying to hold it in right now, because I know if I barf over the side, there's people down below. I'm like, this is not going to be good. I don't want to be that guy. But that's the first time I'd ever felt like that. I just remember all the stories of how Randy's gone out with Brandon and Mark.
Oh, yes, yep.
He's Randy, you know what I'm talking about. I know you're probably mowing the grass as you're listening to this. But I've heard these stories, and I don't want to be that guy. But I'll probably choose the haunted house just because I feel like it'd be fine. And
you're also too a little bit, not that you like scary things, but you know, like you would have the tools. I don't have the tools. Like you watch scary movies and stuff, so you kind of know how to navigate these things. I guess
we need to get you watching scary movies.
That's not happening.
We're preparing you for life. We're going to get you ready for this scenario.
This one time.
Yeah.
I don't want to do either one of these things, but I certainly don't want to be stuck out in the ocean.
Yeah, that'd be a little rough.
Unless it's on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
Count me in.
Why not?
Because then it's more, that goes back to the whole, like, if I'm going to be in the woods, then I need to be essentially glamping.
There was another zombie one, but I figured we've already hit that one good.
We already know what's happening during the zombie apocalypse.
Let's be clear, I'm going to be dead.
I'm done. Okay. I'm just revealing all of my fears here to everybody. But who's not scared of being out in the ocean?
There might be some people who would be perfectly fine with that.
I'd like to meet him.
We'll see in part 6 of Mr. Jenkins Told Me if he talks about any of that.
Is there anything on here about how to survive the night in the ocean? Absolutely not. Okay, number 6 at the back of Mr. Jenkins Told Me is, at Morris-Jenkins, you will work with imperfect people. Well, look at that. Imperfect. Just like me, who can't be in a haunted house or the forest or the ocean.
There's got to be a solution for being out in the middle of the ocean here.
Yes, it must be. Okay, I'm going to read it to you because it's a good one. In the movie First Night, starring Sean Connery, King Arthur accepted imperfect people. He chose Lancelot, a man with obvious flaws but also many strengths, to join his select group, the Knights of the Round Table. He was criticized, and here was his reply. I can't take my men in pieces. I take them whole, or I take them not at all. Just as King Arthur couldn't pick and choose the parts of Lancelot he would accept, we don't get to pick and choose the parts of the people we work with either. People are quirky and imperfect. We take them whole or not at all. Here's the upside. If we accept others as they are, maybe they'll accept us as we are too, because none of us is perfect. But that's great news, because our beauty is in our imperfections. The perfect me is a facade, a mask we wear, and we're never really happy when we're pretending to be someone we're not. And frankly, it's exhausting. The real me is flawed, but it's authentic. We can connect with that person. We like the real me. We like the real you. And here's some additional encouragement. At Morris-Jenkins, we're looking for talent. We don't care what shape, race, color, ethnicity, gender, or sexual orientation it comes in. We're just looking for talent, and we think that we found it in you. We're glad that you're here.
Even if you don't like to be out in the middle of the ocean.
That's right.
Yeah, I love this section, and it's such a good example of taking people for who they are, taking their talents, all the goodness that they bring to just the world, and being able to find the right fit for them. Mm-hmm. And I think, when you're trying to hire somebody, it's not always that you're just trying to find the perfect person for something. You're just trying to find the right person. And when you recognize that everybody has flaws, they have good things that come along with it, but also areas that's like, hey, this might be a little tough. That's the beautiful part about being on a team, is because the areas that you may not be so good at, somebody else on the team can help you with that. Because there's plenty of things that I'm not good at, and it's wonderful having teammates that can basically buffer that for me.
Yeah.
I know on the operations team, it's really interesting working with those animals. Everybody's really driven and motivated. They are passionate about what they do, but it is really interesting when you see the talents that each person has, because it's not all the same for the entirety of the team. Mm-hmm. And so you can see certain areas. I mean, Mark Cagle right off the top of the bat builds relationships like nobody's business. Adrian is like the big thinker. Like she's always thinking all the time. It's funny. She'll come in here and sit down and just be like, okay, so I was thinking. I'm like, of course you are.
You never
what
stop.
She does. But I mean, it goes just back to the six working geniuses, whatever that book is. But it's like everybody has those talents, and they're not perfect. And so when you can accept people and recognize that those flaws are what make them so great, then it's not so bad at all.
Yeah. I think so much of this goes back to what we talked about, not last episode, but the episode before, about armor. He even talks about this facade that we wear. We're never happy being that way. It's exhausting. The real me is flawed, but it's also authentic. We can connect with people because they're not perfect. Obviously, you guys have heard me talk a lot about my struggles with perfectionism. But it's really interesting to think that people can actually connect better with me when they know that I'm just a person struggling with other things just like anybody else.
Yeah.
Being perfect and coming across as perfect actually probably doesn't make me many friends. Not that I think that anybody thinks that I'm perfect, but I think that it kind of is, what's the right word? It's like a paradox. I think that being perfect makes people respect me and more, when really, if I was just my authentic self, people could actually relate and connect to that more than they could when I'm trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
It's like not what you would think. It's the opposite of what you would think. I think this section is a really good, I think we need this reminder often, because I think in the day-to-day it's easy to get frustrated with people. It's easy to be like, why are you, why is this not happening? Why are you not doing this? Why can't you do this? Why can't this get done? It's easy in the day-to-day, I think, to get down on others. Not saying that there doesn't have to be some expectation for getting things done, but I think we have to recognize that it's not everyone's strength to follow through with a project. It's not everybody's strength to communicate a project which we'll talk a little bit more about today as our topic, that's not everyone's strength. Doesn't mean that they can't get better at it, but it's never going to be what they're good at.
Yeah.
And we have to be okay with that and recognize that in people. It would just be a lot less frustrating to us if we could recognize where people are going to need some more support than just constantly beating our head against a wall about why can't they do this? Why can't they do that? Why aren't they doing this or doing that? It's probably just not something that comes as a strength to them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the imperfections that make us perfect.
Yeah.
And we need to embrace those things because they truly make us unique and special. And speaking of those imperfections, the stuff that we struggle with out there, that's the stuff that we can still be aware of and improve at. And so one of the topics, the topic that we are going to talk about today is on communication. Ooh. This is definitely something that we all need help with. I know that even Meredith's like, what was your title again? I'm like, communications trainer, but I still don't know how to do that. Communication can be one of those tough things that it just needs work, constant work all the time. And you could take it from me, as many meetings as I've done here at Morris-Jenkins, you can always improve. Actually, I measured it. I went back and I started counting how many meetings I had done, and it was like some 400 meetings or something like that. And I was just like, that's a lot of talking. But I still feel like I'll do a meeting and I'm like, I don't like how this went. Mm-hmm. Or I could have said this differently, or said this better, or prepared differently, or prepared better. And then that's just on the pre-planned communication, let alone the conversations that are impromptu that just happen. And it's like, I don't think I handled that very well. So we're going to talk about communication today. So communication, essentially all it is just passing information along to somebody else. I guess that's how I kind of define it. Do you have any?
I had the dictionary says,
here we go.
Merriam-Webster says, imparting or imparting or exchanging of information.
Yeah.
So look at you.
Easy enough.
You're basically Webster.
Basically Webster, yeah. I look like Webster. So communication, I feel like there's so many different avenues that this can go down, because you have communication, we have digital communication, there's communication with people. Of course, you have communication with people at work, at home. Do we handle that stuff differently? The piece that I don't think, which I'm excited to talk about today, is body language, because that's another piece of communication that people don't necessarily think about. It's one of those studies that, like, it'll blow your mind how much goes into that. But I figured maybe the best place to start, maybe we just start at work, since, this is easy does it.
Yeah.
Might as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to communication at work, I feel like the best thing that we've ever done here was implement DISC, which if you guys don't know what it is, it's basically just a styles assessment. I think people often get it mixed up with like a personality assessment. And I always tell all of my students when they go through service system, and I'm like, your personality is far too sticky, because I think we are all either a twin or have met twins, and then twins aren't the same. They look the same, they act similar, but they are not the same. And so personalities are far too sticky, as they would say. I mean, all of our environmental shifts and changes that we've grown up with, our parents, the situations, how we interpret those situations in turn create our personality. But we can all look at somebody and be like, you start to notice patterns in how people behave. And so DISC or something like that makes it easy. Before you had DISC or knew about DISC, Meredith, how did you find communication work best for you? Like, how did you communicate with people?
So I think I was not introduced to DISC until I got here. Before that, I had done like Myers-Briggs. Mm-hmm. I had done some other things, I guess, along those lines. So I think I've always kind of known that I am introverted, which, I mean, for communication reasons means that I'm not naturally going to approach others. I'm going to wait for someone to approach me. It does take me a little while to figure out what I want to say. I am a processor. I like to have time to think about, and that's not always ideal. I think it can be a positive, because I am thoughtful about what I want to say, how I want it to come across, how I want to come across. So I think that part is a positive in that, but that's not the real world. I mean, not every single conversation can be planned out. And so I think that's been the part of my communication that I've had to work on, is being prepared to have those types of kind of on the fly conversations. So I think for me, as far as like, what did I do before disc? I certainly didn't think a whole lot about the other person's style. I'm a 99S, 99C. So if I were talking to a D prior to knowing what those things were, because obviously I worked with people with all different disc styles before I came here, I still just would have stuck to my style. I wouldn't have considered the other person's style.
Right.
I do feel that my style of communication, the way I approached communication, is with a lot of empathy. A lot of, I think that's why I enjoyed working with kids.
Yeah.
So if kids would come to my office, the first thing I would ask is, what's on your mind? Like, let's work through this. Even if they got in trouble in class, I didn't sit them down and start a lecture. That's not my style. It was, hey, like, what's going on? Like, why did this happen? So I think there's always been this piece of me that came from the angle of we're in this together. I think that's always kind of been my approach to communication.
How very S of you.
Seriously. Some people at my house might not agree with that statement, but
I want names.
But I think I have always approached communication in that way. I do not like conflict, also very S of me. And so I've always shied away from that. And I think it's because I've never had the tools or the skills to be able to have an honest conversation, but be respectful. I could never be disrespectful intentionally to another person. I guess I should not say never.
She's like, people at home might feel differently.
I still don't think, very rarely, would I be intentionally disrespectful to another person. And so I think that I have had a hard time navigating how to be honest and polite, maybe is the right word. Y'all know I'm a people pleaser.
Clear as kind.
Through and through, I'm a people pleaser.
Clear as kind.
So I have probably sugar-coated some things my entire life that just needed to be said directly and honestly. So I think there's positives to the way that I've communicated, but I also recognize now that there's for sure a lot of things that I could do differently.
Yeah. One person that, and I mentioned him earlier, that I'm very proud of and I pay attention to quite a bit is Mark, because I've known Mark for so long, and I know that he's been a high S for a long time, and his behaviors have changed more recently. Just in the past couple of years, he's more direct than he used to be. I think he was direct back then, but I think he sugarcoated a lot. Fantastic at building relationships, but how he communicates now, I pay attention to, because I'm like, I can take notes from that, because he is very clear with people. I mean, in the position that he's in, he has to be. If y'all haven't met him before, he's the HVAC director for service. He's very direct with people, but he is kind. And he's kind by telling them what they need to hear. And it may not always be what you want to hear, but he definitely will tell you what you need to hear. And I appreciate that. I know we've had run-ins in the past when we were both running two different departments, and I mean, he's always like, I always know he has both of our best interests in mind, but it's like, hey, what's going to be the answer here? Like, what do we need to do? And I can just talk to him straight up too. He'll shoot me straight, which I always appreciate. I wanted to ask you, for those people that are maybe running meetings, I know your disc approach, you're 99 S&C, and that is, I know that we need to adjust our disc for the people that we're talking to. So one-on-one, I know that you do that. How do you lead a meeting with multiple people in there and trying to reach everybody? Do you adjust your disc style? Does things change when you have a group? What does that look like?
I don't know that my style really changes for a meeting so much. I think when I'm talking about a meeting or teaching a class, then I'm thinking about, number one, how is my language and my way of communication? Is it clear? Is it coming across from a place of support and learning and growth in order to create a safe space for people to say what they need to say? And I do think there is some, this would be helpful for the high Ds that would be in the crowd. I do think there has to be, when you're in a meeting or in a class, there has to be some conciseness to the message that you're delivering, because sometimes more words is not necessarily the right avenue to go. Sometimes more words just makes it confusing. So I think when I'm approaching a meeting, I'm not necessarily thinking about disc styles. I know if I got up in a meeting and tried to run a meeting like a high D, that's going to come across as completely and totally inauthentic. Mm-hmm. I'm going to look like a fool up there. Like I'm going to be a robot trying to be, like, that's not gonna, because I have to stay in my style to some extent when I'm in front of people in order to be comfortable myself. Yeah. So I think my mindset shifts a little bit when I'm in front of a larger group to, am I creating a safe space with the words that I'm saying? And am I being clear in what I'm trying to deliver? And is the message coming across concisely enough that people could walk away and summarize it in a few sentences maybe?
I feel like you rehearsed this before I asked that question. What a good answer. Yeah, I've always wondered this myself, and I don't know that we've ever explicitly talked about it in the training meeting. I've tried to pay attention to who am I teaching. Mm-hmm. If it's tech builder, they're learning, and yeah. I recognize a lot of people just naturally in society are going to be I's and S's. We have some C's and a few D's. So usually I'm trying to pay attention to who's in the classroom, and I try to sporadically throughout the sections make sure I'm, of course, making eye contact, but depending on who I'm talking to, I may change that pattern. Mm-hmm. I may give a lot more explanation to one side, and then I'll summarize it if I'm looking at a D, like, this is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Or I'll make that final comment, which just reinforces what I just said with the other group, but it's speaking to that other person. So I try to mix it up. Mm-hmm. If it's a huge group, it's really hard to do, which unfortunately happens a lot. But some of those smaller groups I've been in there with marketing or dispatch or whatever, the coordinators, and so those are a little bit easier. But I know the one team, the coordinator team, there are a lot of C's and S's on that team, and so that would look much different than if we had, let's say, our comfort consultant team, like them going out and doing their thing. Like, that meeting may look a little bit different, but I know that those adjustments are important. In the past, I had to work with a director here at one point in the contact center, and she and I were completely different. So my natural is an SI, and hers was just like a D, basically. Just that was it. And she had worked on herself a lot over the years. I know Brandon worked with her a lot, but when I first got up here, I mean, we could not be farther apart from each other. And I talked to Brandon about it, and he goes, oh yeah, she'd come in there and talk to me about how she wanted to wring your neck sometimes, just because of how we just communicated differently and how we do things. And it took me a while to recognize that, like, I have to change my pattern of speech. Mm-hmm. I knew I had to do it before, but this was like, you're gonna make it or not if you don't do this. So I had to change my pattern of speech and how I did things and how quick I did things, because she expected to be done quickly. But also I recognized, even though that she was my boss at the time, I knew that I still am buffering her as well. Like, I'm able to get her to where she's not moving so fast and is able to think about things. So we actually balanced each other out pretty well throughout the time we were there together. But the interesting piece is, once I moved into the director spot, I wanted to lead how she led, because I'd spent so much time and I saw how much stuff she got done. Like, she would get some stuff done. And I was behaving like that for a while, and then I'm like, dang, that's just not me. Mm-hmm. And so I went back to what my more natural stuff were. And so I think we all do need to be ourselves, but we also have to recognize, if we're working with people in the workplace, that communication, let alone just the behaviors, but the communication that we have with each other, it has to adjust. It's the most respectful way to talk to people, is adjusting your language to what they're expecting. Yeah,
it's so interesting as you're saying this. I think what I'm recognizing as I'm thinking about everything that I looked at in order to prepare for today, and then we're having this conversation, is like, I think most times I'm just going through my day talking, sending emails, typing messages on Teams, whatever. And I'm just communicating. I'm just sending a message out. I'm just trying to get information out to people. And I feel like, maybe it's just me, but my guess would be is that most people just go day to day, like just communicating, just saying the words or putting the words in an email or on a Teams message. But as I'm looking through all of this and thinking about it, it's like so much more than that. It's so much more than that. It's, considering who the other person is on the receiving end. It's the verbiage that you use if you're having the conversation one-on-one. It's the nonverbal cues. It's the tone of your voice. It's your body language. It's just like, I feel like looking through all of this and thinking through all of this, communication is such a giant part of every day and who we are. But I don't know that I specifically, I'll speak for myself, but hope that other people will resonate with this. I don't think that I'm giving it quite I don't know what the right word is, quite the importance it deserves.
Yeah.
Quite the thought process that it deserves. I think some of the things become more natural.
How aware do you feel like you are of your communication with others? Like 10 being, I'm fully aware in every moment, including now.
No, it ain't that.
1 being, what is even my name?
I would say maybe a 6 or 7.
Okay, well, that's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I do think some things become more natural the more you practice them. So like the more ingrained the disc styles become, the easier it is for you to pick up on, okay, I know, I can see who this person is, what they're bringing to the table, and I can adjust my style accordingly. And I think sometimes after we've been in disc for so long, that starts to become natural.
Yeah.
I think the same thing with like asking questions. It's like a default behavior. So like I was saying earlier, if a student came into my office or if one of my own kids, it's the first thing my default is to do is to ask a question. Mm-hmm. The first thing out of my mouth is usually not a statement unless I'm feeling some sort of way. But the first thing is usually like, what happened? Tell me more about that. Yeah. And so I think those things, I'm not thinking about them anymore, but they are a part of being a good communicator. But I just am realizing now that in my day-to-day communications, I'm not sure that I'm really thinking about all of these things actively, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a lot to juggle when you're having a conversation.
I wonder what, if we like polled people at work at Morris-Jenkins, where people are actually at with that. Because I feel like most people here, then I guess even new hires it'd be the same because we talk about DISC, but how many people are aware of their communication style day to day, like in every moment? I know our CSRs think about it because they have to on the phones. I know our techs think about it when they're out there. Does everybody pay attention to that? Because even before you learn about DISC, you're not aware of it. You just talk, you communicate, like you said. And then it's that gift of that knowledge. All of a sudden, it changes everything, and you might be at a 1. You know about DISC, but you're not changing anything. Mm-hmm. And then when you start using it, maybe you bump up a little bit more. But then in our line of work, our techs, our CSR, anybody that's talking to customers, especially forward-facing, you have to be aware of that. Now, you can choose not to be and just let it go and be like, I'm just going to talk. But I think when you make those adjustments and you have that knowledge, it's a responsibility to also make those changes. Brandon used to always say to me all the time, he's like, it's all about how you communicate. He's like, I remember when I first got the supervisor job as a tech, I sat down and I pulled out all of the manuals for all the equipment because I'm like, these guys are going to call me and I need to have an answer. And I wasn't over there not even in an hour on my very first day. He's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm studying. I'm getting ready for these guys to call me. He goes, put that away. He's like, they might call you with technical stuff, but he's like, most of what this job is communicating. Mm-hmm. So they're going to call you with, I've got this objection, or I've got this customer complaint, or I need help with this. And a lot of it's about communication. So, I mean, I still need to know some technical stuff, but a lot of it was, I've got this problem. Can you help me with that?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like, so you said you're a 6 or a 7, and then when your kids come and tell you stuff or ask you stuff, you ask questions back. Do you feel like that changes through text message, through the digital side?
Yes, probably. I think it is, I mean, the digital piece, I think really, I mean, if we look at the impact that body language and tone and everything has on communication, you know, digitally, it strips all of that away. So I think you have to be even more thoughtful about your word use, what you choose to, your punctuation, you know,
not all caps,
exclamation point. And because you're trying to communicate a message without the help of all of these other pieces. And so I think a lot of times things get lost in translation when we're talking about digitally. And a lot of times too, I can't have the same conversation with one of my kids, you know, over a text message that I could have in person. So if one of them messages me and it's like, there's like a problem, Mom, you'll never believe what happened. Probably my first instinct over text is not going to be like, tell me more. You know, I'm not gonna say the same thing.
What do you mean, Mom? I just told you.
Right. I mean, it's just +2. Are they going to type the whole thing out?
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel like that's the right avenue to have that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
So I think more times than not, I would probably say, can we put a pin in this until I can see you face to face and we can talk about it? I need to see you and get a sense of where you're at emotionally before I can ask the right questions and have a conversation over text.
Yeah. Do you ever use like voice notes?
Not really.
Really?
Not as much.
Oh man, a friend of mine, Nicole, we just hosted Carolina game day at her gym, and I always text her. That's how I talk to everybody. And randomly one day she sends me a voice note and she goes, "You may not know this, Rob, but I communicate almost 99% in voice text. So I'm going to give it a go." And then she just talked to me about all the things. And so then I texted her back, like, I'll send you a response back the exact same way, but I got stuff going on. So I end up sending it back, and then we end up going back and forth. And it is nice because you can hear the tonality, how they actually feel about the whole thing. So at least you're getting that piece. Because I know even in the service system, we talk about body language is 55%, but tone and words, tone is 38%, words is 7%. So, I mean, that's a big piece that we're missing just through text. Somebody send you all caps, and you're like, "We about to fight?"
Mm-hmm.
I know
shouty caps.
Shouty caps. I know you and Shallon be sending y'all's little Bitmoji junk y'all got all the time. Shallon sends "Good morning" with her little picture of her and the little cartoon graphic. I'm like, Lord have mercy.
See, isn't that's a much better visual than just "Good morning," regular text.
I can't do that. I tried it for a little while there, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to retire this. It's too much.
Yeah, I do think that it's nice. I guess, too, we just get stuck in our ways and new technology. Not that voice notes are that new. But, like, it's nothing for my kids to speak to their phone or their computer. Like, I didn't grow up doing that. I mean, I didn't grow up doing a lot of things on the computer, but like, you know, Leah will be working on her homework and she'll just press the little microphone on her laptop and just say, search blah, 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 blah. And it pulls up the Google page just as if I had typed it in there. Mm-hmm. It's nothing for her to do that. It's like that's part of the tools at her disposal. So I think that technology is offering us some ways to be able to maybe do that a little bit better, which is nice.
I just remember good old AOL. When somebody came on.
In the closing of the door?
The dopamine hit when somebody came online that was one of your friends or
that you liked.
You got it's somebody you like. Don't tell Susie. Or somebody that you liked, or that little chat bubble popped up and you're just like, oh man, it's on. And you get so excited, you know? Mm-hmm. I just remember the good old AIM. And that was, I remember in school, because like we had just kind of started all that. It just hit the scene. I still remember to this day, you had to buy internet time. And you get like a CD-ROM, like a disc, and you bought 120 minutes on it, and you would put the disc in, and when the time was up, you didn't have no more internet. Like that's how you had to do it. And I was like, my mom would get so mad because she had to use it, and I'd be in there talking to my friends for a little. I got 20 minutes. My mom's gonna yell at me. But at my dad's house, he worked for Time Warner Cable. That later turned to Spectrum. Those animals, but. I hope they don't sue me, but he had unlimited. So when I was at my dad's house for the weekend, I would chat it up with everybody. I would talk to everybody all day, all night. My dad would be asleep on the couch, just over there talking to all my friends. But that was the only way you could talk to anybody because there was no cell phones.
But right there is like, that's about this communication piece. I mean, it is so, it's just so critical from an early age. We just don't even recognize how critical it is to our social development. I mean, it's just like, my girls now, it's no different than me being on the phone with the cord in the kitchen. The phone was in the kitchen with the cord. You didn't leave the kitchen. But I still stood there in the kitchen and talked to my friends on the phone. It's just that, with every generation and decade, we get more and more and more tools to communicate, and there's a reason for that. It's because
we need it.
It's because the communication piece is so important and critical to our everyday lives.
I just remember everything felt like it changed when COVID hit. I mean, like, we still could talk, but the mask thing changed. Like, you're really having to, I've never looked at somebody's eyes so hard, like how do they actually feel right now, paying attention to their eyebrows because you didn't have anything else. I just remember that shift changed a lot of stuff, and I feel like it shut people down. Like, people didn't want to be around each other for obvious reasons, but just the communication side, I felt like it allowed you to disconnect from people completely. And I think some people were probably okay with it, like, I don't want to talk to people anyway, but I feel like a lot of people were just longing for that so much because it wasn't happening anymore.
I mean, the connection piece we've talked about that on here. That's a human need, is for us to feel connected to others. I think for people who are introverted, like myself, I don't love to be always in people's physical space. I get energy by being by myself. I recharge my batteries by being alone. And so I think for some people who fall in that category, it gave us too much time and opportunity to be alone, because we still need connection. We still need to be able to connect with people. And the reality of the real world is that if you're going to be a part of the real world, you're going to have to be around other people. So I think COVID kind of gave some people, introverts like myself, it was an excuse not to interact. And that was great at the time, but that's not reality. So, like, even though I don't love conflict and I don't always want to be with other people all the time, I still have to have the tools and the skills to be able to interact with people. So I think that there was a piece of that probably caused people to go a little bit further into themselves. And I also think that even if you are an introvert, somehow or another, your needs of connectedness were not being met during COVID. And I think a lot of that kind of, I do think we're still some of us are not, myself included, still not recognizing the long-term impacts and effects that time period had on us and our families and our work.
Oh, 100%. I don't think we'll see that for a while. I know my kids, I mean, they were in school, and then Lord bless my wife, like, the amount of work that she had to do on top of it. Same thing for you. I mean, the amount of work that was put on the parents of what they had to do to get their kids through school and them to pass and move on. And the Lord bless the teachers that had to do the digital side and send the homework out. And I just remember coming in, and Charlie's on the video call with her teacher from this time to this time with the kids in there, and they're all giggling and, looking at each other in the cameras and stuff. And then Jack would be on for a little while, and they still had to try to do their thing. And then it's like, you don't have the social side, which is so necessary for human development, especially at a kid's age. And even when they went back to school, they're missing those visual cues of emotion on people's faces. All you had was the eyes. And so I don't think we'll see that for years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when these kids start hitting the workforce, hopefully everybody has all the tools they need, but there's those fundamental years of development that have to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that even ties into, the body language piece that, I remember when I first started studying body language to teach a class here, like I didn't really understand how important it was. And then I looked into it and I'm like, that's a big piece of communication. And I just got really fascinated with it because it's something that most people don't pay attention to. It's just a feeling that we have. I remember coming downstairs, I bought that book. I came down to your desk. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm studying body language right now. And you're like, really? I'm like, oh yeah. And I just remember you like sat up in your seat and fixed yourself and you're looking at me and then, what are you seeing right now? It's like,
analyze me.
Yeah. I remember even teaching the first class and I'm like, go out into the building and let's just talk to people, but be observant of what their body language is. And there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of visual cues to pick up on when it comes to body language. And they come back and I'm like, oh, I asked this question and then I saw them, the guy like rubbed his beard when he said that, and I could tell that he didn't really mean it when he said it. It was crazy. And I'm like, okay, well, cool. Well, what other cues did you see? And man, he just like, changed his seating position or whatever. And I'm like, well, what did that mean? And it's just like all of these little minor things that we don't normally pick up on are actually telling you stuff. They're screaming stuff to you. And it's like learning another language. Unless you have the codex for it, you don't know what you're looking at. But once you see it and you know about it, you see it everywhere. But the interesting thing that I have found, even in teaching it, if you're not paying attention to it, just like DISC, you'll just communicate.
Yeah.
And you're not paying attention to it unless you need the tool. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to completely pay attention to everything this person says.
Yep.
But body language is a very interesting one that, like, it's an important piece.
Yeah, I don't know nearly as much about it as I should, but there again, like you're saying, it's like, okay, so here's another thing, like paying attention to their disc style, now paying attention to their body language, which makes me go back. Maybe my rating of myself is a little bit generous, because now here's another thing that I don't think I'm paying attention to like quite so much. I have been noticing when I go to tuck Mila in at night, she's usually just in her bed either watching a show or reading, and so some nights she'll want to talk, because of course that's when teenagers want to talk, when you're ready for bed.
Right time. Right the time for bed.
10 o'clock. And so sometimes she'll say something. She'll just like throw a little thing out there, I think kind of hoping that I'll grab onto it and ask her another question. And that's my cue that she wants to engage. That's something I wrote down here, really more about relationships, but could be also too with your kids. But she kind of throws a bone out there, says like something that happened during that day, and that's her cue to me that she wants to talk more. But then I've been noticing, and maybe she's been doing this the whole time and I haven't been paying attention, on the nights where she just is like wants to watch her show and go to bed or whatever she wants to do, she'll glance over at her clock. It's like, I don't know if she's doing it on purpose. I don't know. Maybe I'm not interpreting it correctly at all. I guess I should just ask her. But the nights where I can see where she's like, I'll walk in and, I'm like, okay, you ready for bed? And she's like, yeah. What are you doing? Oh, I'm reading or watching my show. Okay. Well, don't forget tomorrow. We kind of usually always do like a little tomorrow,
check in.
Yeah, because me, I got to make sure everybody got the plan down.
Yeah.
So I'm like, tomorrow, don't forget you got volleyball, blah, blah, blah. And so a lot of times after we kind of finish that and I'm getting ready to say goodnight, I'll see her glance over at her clock. And that's my cue to be like, okay, she's not interested in talking tonight or having a long conversation. And so I've noticed.
It's like somebody looking down at their watch while they're talking to you.
Yes, that's exactly what it's like.
She's shooing you out of there.
I know. And so I'm like, okay, I'll see you in the morning. Love you.
Mama's
good night. But I think that it's interesting that even, Mila's 14. And so she may not realize she's doing it, or maybe she does, but I can already see picking those cues up on her. So what I was going to say about her kind of casting a line and seeing if I take the bait, they talk about in the Love Prescription. It's in the library. They talk about these bids for attention. And so if we're talking about our family and relationships, not just our family, but really it could be anybody, but our kids or our spouses or significant others, one thing they talk about in there is watching for invitations to connect.
Yeah.
So even if your spouse is like, you know, hey, look at this, or, you know, does like a heavy sigh, or any of those things, those really subtle things, sometimes can be a bid for connection, and listening and tuning into those, and then being able to say, hey, you know, like, what's going on? And so that kind of helps you lean into the communication piece between you and that other person, when they, like, that's what I call it, casting a line. So that's what Mila does when she's like makes a statement about what happened at school. I think that's what she's doing. She's casting a line to see if I'm going to stop and engage with her. And so if I just kept on keeping on, okay, well, remember tomorrow you have volleyball, and don't forget to pack this and this and this, and you got to give that note to the front office when you get to school tomorrow. If I just kind of zoop right over that, then, you know, how long is she going to keep casting that line?
Before she stops.
Right. And so I think that's this important piece of communication, is to pick up on those cues, whether it be I'm tired and I'm ready to go to bed, or whether it's I'm trying to engage you. Like I said, it could just be your partner being like, sometimes they're...
I've heard that before.
No way. We don't do that.
Oh, I definitely know when Susie, there's something that needs to be talked about. I do have a question for you, because you have time to think about it. What is your line cast for Michael? So Susie, just kick the mic. Susie, I definitely know when I'm in trouble. Usually there's the one foot's facing you, one gets kicked out to the side. That's usually
one foot to the
coming.
door.
Yeah. And it's usually I don't mess something up, or she needs to talk to me about something. Then I do know that when she rubs her face with both hands, like, you know, like she's almost like washing her face, but she's just standing there. I'm like, oh, here it comes. Like, I know that I've messed something up. But I do notice the times, you know, for connection, I know her love language is not physical touch. Like we hug and all the things, but it's like, that's mine. And I know that when she does that, that is her, you know, reaching out. Yep. You know, for whatever reason it is. Maybe I look stressed, or maybe she just is just like, I love you, you know, whatever. I know for her, acts of service is what she enjoys and loves. And I give her words of affirmation. I know that's another one of mine, but I recognize it's like,
let me give you what mine are.
just bouncing off a metal plate. But the physical touch, the acts of service, and then I know quality time means a lot. I mean, she loves going on trips and vacations and spending that time and exploring, and then the acts of service. So I know if I'm like cleaning and doing stuff around the house, I know that she truly appreciates that. But I also recognize the roles that we have. I know I'm at work all day, and she goes to drop the kids off in the morning. She comes back, she works till like 1:30. She goes, picks up the kids. They have outdoor clubs sometimes we have sports or whatever, and so like really the rest of the day she's got stuff going on. And so if I come home and make a mess or things start to pile up, that's when I know she gets more stressed. So being able to do my part and help keep things clean and assist and help, like even last night, the kids, you want to talk about some body language. Last night I came home after teaching all day yesterday. I was like, I just want to sit on the stinking couch. I came in. She made spaghetti with meatballs. They were so good, spicy meatballs, or the ticket, yo. So I come home, I'm eating, and she comes in and she looks at me. She's like, "You're going to clean up these dishes, right?" And I'm like, "You think I was going to leave you think I was going to leave these on the counter, come home and eat, and then make you clean it up after today? She goes, I was just checking. And I'm like, I started laughing. I'm like, no, I wouldn't do that to you. I've done it in the past, but not tonight. And then
there's a reason she's asking.
That's right. And so then the kids are sitting on the couch, and this is like 7:30. They go to bed at 8:30. And she's in there taking a shower and doing her hair. So I know that takes a while. And I said, hey, kids, clean up y'all's plates and everything. And they go put them in the sink. I'm like, hey, where's a good place for that? And then they put it in the dishwasher. And they walk away and go get back on the couch. I'm like, hey, you guys know how you could really help your mom out? If you guys made your lunch for tomorrow. And Charlie gets up. Yes, sir. She walks over and she just looks at me and then just walks into the kitchen. And I said, is that the look of, like, not disgust, but like, you not happy about this, huh? And she just turns around and looks at me and she goes, mm-mm. Like I was like the first time I've actually seen that. Because like normally if you ask them to do something, yes, sir. And then they'll walk in there and get it done. But that was like, yes, sir. Like the look, like, I can't believe you just asked me to do that. And so I called it out and she goes, yeah, not really. I don't want to do it. And I'm like, I know you don't, but your mom has done it since you were a baby. So I'm like, you can start making your dinner in there or your lunch for tomorrow. And so they knock it out in 5 minutes.
Yep.
But I think being able to pick up on those body language cues, being able to read what the people are saying, because she didn't say a word. She just walked past and gave a look. You could just be like, you need to be doing it versus like, oh, that's the first time I've actually seen that cue and what it actually meant. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a question that they have in the book is there anything you need from me today?
This is love prescription?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's another way you can, if you're not picking up on the cues or you don't know what the cues are, or you're just starting to work on this type of thing with your partner or your significant other or even your kids, is there anything you need from me today? And so when we throw that out there, then it makes it a little bit easier for them to say, actually, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. Could you, whatever, take Leah to dance? I don't know, going back to your question for me, I don't know what my invitation to connect is. I mean, I probably use a lot of different ones.
Michael, get in here right now.
Michael. That is, I don't know if I've told that story on here. One time I was doing, you all know these things on Facebook where it's like, ask your kids these questions. And so I'm going through this when the girls were much younger, although I don't know if their answers would change that much now. But one of the questions was, what's something that I say a lot? And I'm pretty sure Mila or Leah, I don't know who said, Michael! And she said it just like that.
They've heard it once or twice.
Not just his name.
As soon as Michael hears that, you see him rappelling out of the window, the top window upstairs, and getting in the car. It's like, I'm out. I'm
out of here. I think maybe mine might be more a little behavioral. Like, I think that he has started to pick up, of course, on when I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed, too many things going on, feeling stressed. I start to, what do they call it? It's like angry clean. What is that called?
Angry clean?
It's called something, I think. But it's...
Well, you're shifting that internal focus to you're like putting it out. You have to get that energy out somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm cleaning up the counter furiously. Yeah. I'm like, whose stuff? This is when all communication, everything I know about communication, right out the window.
Or this is exactly communication. It's exactly what it is. You're communicating clearly with everyone how you feel.
Whose stuff is on the counter? This stuff is always on the counter. Always. This stuff, Leah, you always have all of these things on the counter. Here's a hair clip. Here's this. Here's that. This is not where this goes. Blah, 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 I mean, it's like on and on and on. Why is there a clarinet case in the middle of the floor? Why are our book bags? We have a spot for book bags. And so I think then, like I said, that's when I know that when I am behaving that way, I am not engaging anyone's cooperation.
I can see Michael walking up. Is there anything I can help with? Is there something wrong?
What do you think?
Mother trucker.
So I do think, I know that I've worked a long time with children. I know that when I'm behaving that way, it does not encourage anyone to want to stay in the same room with me and actually address said issue. But sometimes I just can't. I can't help myself. Going back to what we've talked about on here 1,000 times is that we are emotional beings first and foremost. And so when my cup is full and running over, and that's how it comes out. And I know better. I know that if I said to Leah, hey, I'm really trying to get this cleaned up in here. There's a couple things on the counter that I think are yours. I put them all here together. Could you take care of that for me? She would jump right on it.
Yeah.
She would do it, no questions asked. She wants to make me happy. She would do it, no questions asked.
That doesn't make you feel better.
Not in that moment, it doesn't.
Heck no.
And she would know because I would be saying that through clenched teeth. Come get this.
Is this your clarinet case on the ground?
So I do think that's probably how Michael can also tell. Like, let's say it's a Saturday morning and I get up and I'm like, okay, whose things are over here on the? It can be
You better get up.
It can be the very first thing. Okay, whose stuff is this over here? And Michael's like, oh, I can see him over there. He sits up a little bit straighter on the couch.
He's probably thinking it's 7:15.
But I think that is. But I do think that is recognizing. I think some partners are probably really great at saying exactly what it is that I'm feeling and needing. I am not that way.
Yep.
That is something that I need to work on because they talk about in the book, one of the things that you have to do is you have to ask for what you need. And I can't blame Michael for not reading my mind. And so 9 times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10, if you and your partner have a good relationship, they want to know what you need. That's the thing is like, I'm not asking for what I need, but truly Michael wants to know what he can do, how he can help, what he can do to take something off my plate.
Yeah.
That's what we want to do for the people that we love. But when you have a hard time asking for what you need, then that creates this kind of, friction there.
Do you feel like that you don't ask for what you need? Does that come from, I need things to be done right? Is it that you don't feel like they're going to do it how you would do it, almost the perfectionism side? Mm-hmm. Or is it, maybe I should just ask, what is that?
I do think that's part of it, is that they're not going to do it the way that I would want it to be done. But I also think we might have talked about this on here before, but if not, in Brene Brown's book, surprise, surprise, Daring Greatly, she talks about that is, that's a feeling, admitting that I can't handle everything that a mom and wife is supposed to be able to handle is a sign of weakness. It's a sign of, moms should be able to be moms.
Yeah.
And should be able to handle everything and take everybody everywhere and go grocery shopping and keep the house clean and keep looking good yourself. You should be able to do all those things. So if I have to say I can't do everything that I'm supposed to be doing as a mom, what does that say about me as a mom?
Yeah.
And so I think that is probably a bigger part of it.
Got it.
I've tried to let go of everything's not going to get done the way that I want it to get done. Like if Leah shows up to swim practice and she doesn't have like the right goggles or the right towel, not that there's a right towel, but there kind of is. I've had to learn to let that stuff go.
If there's a place for book bags, there's a proper towel. Definitely.
True. So I do think I've had to start letting that stuff go. So for me, I think a lot of it comes back to I should be able to handle it. So asking for help means admitting that I can't.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a lot of times why I have a hard time asking for what I need.
For sure.
But going back to communicating with your partner, Michael wants to know when I'm having too many things on my plate. I want to know when he has too many things on his plate and how I can help. But I think what we do is we hope or we think that our partner should be able to just read our minds.
Yeah.
And that's just, we're not mind readers. None of us, no matter how long you've been together. There are a lot of things I can predict about Michael because we've been together a long time. Mm-hmm. But I still can't read his mind. That's just not, we can't do that. And so wouldn't it be...
I'm just thinking, I don't think you want to.
Probably
You'd see him over there in the afternoon and you're like, wonder what he's thinking about. And you go in, and it's literal silence. Nothing. Must be nice.
Come in my brain for 5 seconds.
I definitely have moments where and I know not everybody can do this, and it may not be a good thing, but I do not know how many times I've been in the car and I'll just drive and I'm going to my destination and I'm paying attention, but I've not thought about anything. And I know that probably irritates Susie sometimes because I find myself in those spaces where I'm like trying to clear it out and it's easy to get there, but I'm not thinking about what's next, what has to be done. And I know that she does that often, and to our benefit, because there's plenty of stuff. She's like, did you think about this? I'm like, definitely not. 0 times have I thought about that. And I know that probably pushes her over the edge sometimes, which is completely my fault. But I have to give her I want to give her mad props all the time. Carolina Game Day, I do a little charity event every year. I know we've talked about it, but the last few weeks, like this year I was like, I'm going to not put too much on my plate. I had like Sam help me out with it next door. I had some other friends outside of work help me out with it, and blessed all of them. So I'm like planning for it, and I'm like, I'm not going to put too much on myself in this final week like I've done every year prior. I'm like, I'm going to space this out. So I did space stuff out, but this year was bigger than last year, and I'm like, there's more things. So it just ended up feeling exactly the same. But I remember in that last week and a half, I had to go to locations. I had to pick stuff up, drop stuff off, meet with vendors and sponsors. I had to go to gyms to work out to try to gather people and gain interest and drop flyers off. And then some of my friends helped me out with stuff, and I was all over the place. And then there were nights that I would get home at 6 o'clock, and then I would work until midnight on my computer upstairs, like working. And my wife took so much more on her plate because I was up there doing it. She knew I was up there just chilling. I was up there working, but not a single time throughout the whole thing did she push back or anything like, hey, I got to do this or I got to do that. I know this is a lot. Is it okay if I go do this? She's like, yeah, it's fine. And I was like, man, she's a catch, because I know that it was a lot. Her taking care of the kids, the food. We still had sports going on. I'm literally spending most of my time doing this and pitching in when I could, but she took on so much. And that, her not even saying anything or giving me grief about. I even did the unspeakable thing of I had a birthday party for a friend of mine Sunday evening. So Carolina Game Day was Saturday. Wow. Sunday evening, I forgot about it, and Friday I'm like, you can tell me no, but I forgot about this. Is it okay if I go? And she goes, I'm surprised you want to go with how tired
busy
you've been.
Yeah.
But she's like, it's fine if you want to. And I was like, I can't believe she said yes. But I just appreciate everything that she does. And I feel like that's the communication. I mean, today could even be about relationships, but I feel like that's the give and take of relationships, because it's not always going to be 50-50. Sometimes the other person has to, take a little bit more while the other person has stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I feel like not every relationship, it should be like that. I know that it's not always like that, but they can aspire to and become that if you put in the work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think some simple things during that time is just like saying thank you. They talk about that in the book as well. It's like saying thank you for things that you appreciate, because we often overlook that kind of thing. When people are doing a lot for us and people are helping pull the weight, we just kind of overlook it, or it feels weird, to say thank you.
Right.
And so they talk about saying thank you, giving a real compliment, like a real compliment, not like you did it. The grass looks great, like a real compliment. Michael just got done doing 75 hard. And while at times that was annoying, I can imagine what it felt like for him if it felt annoying to me. But, a lot of things that shows me about Michael is his commitment, his dedication, his discipline. I was just telling Rob before we started, he would go outside and he would walk in the rain. He would walk at 9 o'clock at night. He would get up in the morning to read, because that's part of the 75 hard. Giving someone a real compliment around the things that you notice about them. I think really helps when they're doing a lot for us in the situation of where you were super busy, or they're doing something like training for a triathlon or doing the 75 hard, like recognizing those things about them. I think it goes a long way with people to see someone's recognizing this.
Yeah.
And those so simple, like those are communication things we can do that are so simple. Say thank you and give somebody a real compliment.
Yeah.
But if you really think about it, when's the last time I gave Michael a real compliment? Like about something like that? Probably not in a while, because we just get hung up in the day to day. It's come home, eat dinner, do the dishes, you go to volleyball, I go to dance, it's, but there has to be some space for that in there to kind of make sure that you're still staying connected to that person. And is such an easy way to communicate with them that we don't take advantage of.
Yeah. Today's the day.
Today's the day. I'm going to go plan it out.
You should send him a voice note.
Yeah.
On your phone.
Oh my gosh, I could combine everything. We're talking
Heck
the
yeah.
voice note.
You could take a picture of yourself smiling, so he gets the visual side, and then you send him a little voice note.
Yeah,
so he can get it all.
All the things. Recognize the body language. Yeah, I do think it is. I don't do that nearly enough. And
Same, yeah.
It seems and sounds and is so simple, yet it is so underutilized.
It's like in that one meeting, I think Shallon talked about it in Training Mastery yesterday. Wait, so I have to tell people good job for doing their job? Or wait, so I have to give compliments to my husband for cutting the grass when that's his job? Or that's what's expected? It's like, well, yeah.
Mm-hmm. If you want him to keep doing it,
yeah,
then the answer is yes.
Reinforce the behavior, but also just doing it out of straight up gratitude. Like,
yes.
Appreciate you doing that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there are some more complex things about communication, but then there are also some really simple things that I think they get lost in the sauce.
Yeah.
In the day to day, in the ins and outs of the day, they get lost, and we get complacent, and comfortable in how the communication is with our partner or our kids or whatever it is. And then when you step back and you really think about, is this what I want for this relationship? Do I want more out of this relationship? Then you start recognizing I'm not behaving the way I want this relationship to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And if you're in a relationship and it's not going the direction that you want it to, we all play a part in that. Mm-hmm. You play a part in that. I do. And so if it's not going in the direction that you want, communicate where you want it to be and what's keeping it from being there. And I feel like every time that you're like, this needs to be changed, there's also that reflection piece of, I am a part in this. Yep. How am I not contributing? Mm-hmm. I do know that there's this idea, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it, of there are people out there that are more takers and some are givers. Mm-hmm. But in a relationship, it's not always just one person's always all give and the other one's all take. It has to be a balance between the two. Otherwise, the person that's giving all the time will eventually have nothing to give. Mm-hmm. Like, you're going to be completely depleted, and the other person's going to be like, what's wrong? It's like, what the heck do you think is wrong? But if you don't talk about it along the way, then how is the other person supposed to know in the first place?
Yep. Yeah, I think that goes back to the asking for what you need.
Yeah.
And letting go of any of the reasons why. Like, I shared what I feel like my reasons why are for not asking for help, but you got to let go of that stuff. Yeah. I am a good enough mom. Even if I have to ask somebody to take my kids to dance, or ask Michael to take this off my plate. And so, and I think too, part of that is we recognize that the other person's plate is already full.
Yeah.
They already have a lot going on as well. And so to then look at Michael and say, hey, can you also take this on that I was supposed to be doing? And not that has to last forever. I can take it back at some point. But I think sometimes that's part of why we don't ask either, is because if I look at your plate, I already think your plate is full. So asking you to do something else feels like, I'd rather not ask you. I'll just keep piling my plate higher and higher and higher.
Yeah. I actually asked Susie the other day. It was actually this past weekend. I officiated a wedding on Sunday. let's see. Saturday we had sports. It was nonstop all day long. And then Sunday we had church in the morning. We had practice at 12 to 1. I had to be at the wedding at 2:30. The wedding's at 4. Susie's coming to the wedding. She had to drop the kids off at my mom's house. It was just like chaos. And I when we got home from church, I came in and I'm like, I got to shine my shoes. I got to make sure my suit looks good. I had to iron it and all this stuff. And I'm like, I come in, I'm doing all these things. And then Charlie has a project that she's supposed to be working on at the same time. And so Susie's helping out with that. Me and Charlie are more like the creative ones. But I'm like, it's easy. Just run the wire and do this, this, and this. So I come home from practice later, and she's doing things, I'm doing things. And I looked at her and I was like, I got to run in here and take a shower real quick. Can you just make me a sandwich real quick? I have not asked her to make me like a sandwich or just like food in general. You know, she cooks dinner and whatnot. And usually for lunches on the weekends, we just all fend for ourselves. It's fine. I haven't asked that in that so long, and I was just thinking, I'm like, I haven't asked this in a long time. She'll be okay with it. I just need help because I'm literally, if she doesn't do this, I'm not eating.
Yeah.
So she just like turned around and looked at me, and I was like, oh man,
never mind.
she didn't take that how I was thinking that. And then I was just like, I'm just so hungry right now. I'm like, I haven't eaten since 7. I just need a sandwich before the wedding. And she's like, okay. And so she makes it for me. And then Jack's like, yeah, I want one too. And I'm like, okay, this is just piled on. This is bad. I'm like, I'm gonna hear about this later. But I freaking love that woman. Like she is so giving all the time, but I probably could tell her more often that I appreciate her because she does so much.
It is funny that we are like, because it's like, I don't have a problem making you a sandwich. It's just like, what?
Yeah. I think that just me asking caught her off guard.
Yeah.
But then too, like, we're all busy. We're all doing things. But I'm just like, I saw her walking by and I knew she was going to be home for like 2 hours before we left. So I was just like,
2 hours while she's working with Charlie, probably going to the grocery store, getting the laundry done. Yeah.
So bless her. Oh, I wanted to ask you, how's from TJ? How's Groovy Gains going for you?
Just still watching the Instagram videos. Although I did do a little bit of research into where I could go around here.
Really? What did you find? Did you find anything good? Anything juicy?
I still feel like it's just not. I guess too, maybe I'm being a little bit too picky because anywhere you have to go, I live in Waxhaw, so anywhere you have to go is yeah. So I think maybe I'm being a little bit too picky about where do I have to go, because I don't want to drive like 45 minutes, and nor do I probably have even the capacity to be able to do that.
Yeah, I get that
on a weeknight.
Just go right after work. Michael, get the kids. I'm doing research.
Yeah. So
I mean, you could go to that yoga we talked about.
Oh boy,
y'all! I told Meredith there's a. I was totally kidding, but it was funny. I said, "There's this yoga. It's twerk yoga you can go to if you're trying to do research." And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "It's a thing."
Who knew?
There's all kinds of different forms of dance out there, but I mean there's more hip hop. There's ones they do more teaching. Then there's ones that's like just come have fun.
Yeah.
Then you have that kind. But there's all kinds of stuff out there. Most of it is, I mean, most of the fitness stuff around town is going to be downtown, and so there are some stuff along the outskirts. They have like dance studios around that are like a friend of mine, she goes to one. I can't remember what it's called. Maybe it's Dance District, I believe is what it's called. But they'll teach you like choreography throughout class for like an hour, like 50 minutes, and then the last 10 minutes you get to do the dance.
Oh yeah.
So it's like you get to learn moves, and then you can kind of. I'm sure they probably have like freestyle and stuff that you could do too. But it's all like you're learning how to do the dance, and so you'll do that for a whole week, and then you'll get to be able to perform, which is, I mean, if that's what you want to do, but. Sounds like you're trying to take Charlotte on by storm.
Yeah. I need to...
Groovy Gains.
Yep. I need to be not so picky. I'm just going to have to do it and go experience it, I think, again.
So on October 31st, Meredith is holding a boo bash in the expansion area. There will be a blacklight party. She will be leading.
That would be fun.
We should do that. That would be a good time.
It would be.
Heck yeah.
Yep.
Appreciate you, TJ.
I know. I don't appreciate it. I still don't appreciate how y'all turned that right on me.
It wasn't y'all. It was him. He's the one that reverse interviewed you, fool.
He sure did.
Heck.
He did reverse interview me.
So do you feel like, so when it comes to communication, it sounds like there's some very specific things that we all can work on. I know we've talked about a few of those today. I think if we recap and go through, it sounds like being aware of how we communicate with other people is a piece of that. And it's, am I using DISC? Also the reading side, which is, am I picking up on some of those cues?
Yep.
So you were talking about in the relationship. So am I picking up on their cues? Do I even know what my spouse's or significant other's cues are? And then the other side is a little bit of the body language piece.
Yep.
Educating yourself in that and being able to pick up in that. Because I feel like I tell everybody on here, if you want to understand communication, body language is a whole wide world of stuff that it would expand your mind more than you think. You can read how people are doing across the room. You can see how people feel or like something's up. If you can pick up on that kind of stuff, I think that people's communication skills will increase.
Yep. There's a book in the library, believe it or not, what every body is saying. I love that title. It's so clever.
That's a good one.
So what every body is saying is in the library. If you want to do some more research on body language, I think that is a big part of recognizing, and it's a place where we could do some, I know myself could do some more work around what is body language telling us. I guess to add to that, I think a couple things that I would say as far as communication goes is being sure that people hear what you're trying to say. I think once we know what we're trying to communicate, but maybe asking back, what did you hear? What did you hear me saying? I think that's something that we could work on as well. One thing that we didn't talk about, but I think would be a nice way to approach communication, particularly if it was kind of a little bit of a, not controversial, if it was conflict or if there was an issue, is almost like this was from the Mel Robbins podcast. They put, which I can link in the show notes, you put the problem in the room, because 9 times out of 10, the issue you're having is about the problem, not the person. And so if you and I talk about the problem, if we sit the problem in the middle of the room, hypothetically, figuratively speaking, if we sit the problem in the middle of the room, then you and I are now on the same team talking about the problem.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about you and how you're handling the problem or how you might have contributed to the problem. We're talking about the problem, which takes some of the, I guess, take some of the personal feelings out of it.
For sure.
So I think that that's a good thing too, to kind of keep in the back of your mind, is 9 times out of 10, when someone has an issue, it's not about the person, it's about the problem, or the problem that the person might be creating. But if you address the problem, you're inadvertently addressing the person. So I think that's something too to kind of keep in mind. I think one thing we talked about too that I think is important is for us to remember is, how do I want to show up for this conversation? Do I want to show up like a jackass, or do I want to show up as someone who approaches conversations with kindness and compassion and curiosity? What do I want the person across from me walking away saying about me when this conversation is over?
Yeah.
Even if you have to be direct with the person, I appreciate how this person delivered a message the way that it needed to be delivered, but delivered it with kindness. So I think it is, how do I want to show up? How do I want people to describe how I show up? And what do I want for this relationship? If I want mine and Michael's relationship, or mine and Mila's relationship, or it doesn't matter. If I want it to keep growing and I want it to keep flourishing, then my communication should reflect that. Screaming at everybody about what's on the countertop, that is not reflecting that. And so,
whose clarinet case Yeah, in the conflict piece, I mean, of course, we've talked about conflict plenty of times on here. That the whole idea is such a great fundamental. What do I want for this person? What do I want for, this situation? But truly just thinking like, what do I want for our relationship by the end of this, and just piecing all that together. Even if the person, we say 9 times out of 10 it's not the person, but sometimes it is the problem that the person creates. And so then it's just like, look, if we can just move this to the side and I'm going to give you just legit feedback, or let's look at how we can possibly solve this together. I always think if you're approaching it like, how can I be the bigger person in this, or how can I be a leader in this? You are going to set the tone and the pace for the other person. And if the conversation is not going where you want it to, and the communication is not where you're going to, it's okay to pause and be like, hey, we need to reconvene on this, because I can tell that my emotions are starting to flare a little bit, which is fine. I need to regroup myself. Can we talk about this
I'm
tomorrow?
getting away from the person that I wanted to show up as.
Yeah.
That. I think the hard part in that is having enough wherewithal in that moment to say, I'm getting away from who I want to be in this moment. I think I need to circle back with you tomorrow.
Yep. That's what Meredith said to me last week.
It's so hard in that moment when you're feeling really frustrated and angry, and you're trying to get to the bottom, and you're trying to solve a problem, to say this is not getting anywhere, because you just want to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and, listen to me. And really what you're saying is, come over to my side of thinking,
Yeah.
So I think that it's really important to recognize, when am I getting away from the person that I want to show up as, in the words that I'm saying, in the body language that I'm giving, in the tone of my voice. How am I moving away from who I want to be? And if you are saying, like, that's what I should do on the mornings when I'm hollering at everybody about the counter, is I should just say, okay, I need a reset. I'm not showing up this morning how I want to show up. So let me go back in. Maybe somebody in my house should be like, do you want to just like go back into bed and then try again? Like,
how about I just go back in the bed and stay there? Y'all figure it out. You ain't got no lunch, that's on you.
If that clarinet's still on the floor. So I do think it's really thinking. I don't know that I've ever truly thought about that, is how do I want to show up as a person and as a communicator with other people, and making sure that I stay true to that, and knowing when I'm not staying true to that.
Yeah, I do. There's a quote. It says the great enemy of communication we find is the illusion that it happened.
Yeah.
And so I think if we are aware of how we are showing up, and if we're not fulfilling that, then just pausing and going back. And I do think I know we've talked about it previously, but just the practice of more awareness and stoicism of, I'm aware of how I'm communicating. It is following the path that I want to. I'm using the skills that I know I should be using. I'm adjusting my language for DISC. You're thinking about all these things. And if you could do it often, then incrementally you get better and better at it, whether it be communicating at work, in your relationships. And just by communicating better, those relationships will increase.
Yeah.
Your value you bring to the relationship or the workplace continues to increase. And the more often you do it, it becomes your character. And that's what people see. And I think the beautiful part is, throughout our lives, we can continue to remake ourselves. We're not just always going to be the same person. If you look back 15, 20 years in the past, you're like, man, I am a different person than how I was. There's some similarities, but there are some changes. So if we were to look 10, 15 years in the future, what type of person would I want to become, and what do I need to do to get there?
Yeah. So
I think if we approach things from that vantage point of, I'm looking at myself, that metacognitive thought or vision, it's like, okay, I am behaving how I will become in the future, or I am not. And I need to be mindful of that. I think if we all walk away from today thinking, how do I want to become? How can I communicate better? And grabbing those strategies, which is a whole world of study. Everything we've talked about today, the love prescription, what everybody's saying, even going through Mr. Jenkins Told Me, there's so many things out there for better communication that we can all learn from.
Yeah. And everybody can be. I don't know that I was born. I think some people are naturally better communicators than others. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think some people are naturally better communicators than others. It doesn't mean that the rest of us, myself included, it doesn't mean that we can't improve. I don't think that's a fixed set of skills that can't get better. I think that we all have the opportunity to grow ourselves in that way. So hopefully you're taking away something from today that will help you start to work on those communication skills, because I do think what Rob just said, the better the communication skills, the better your relationships, the better your work, I guess your work relationships, but just your work in general becomes. So overall, I think it's just such a critical part of our everyday lives. It's worth investing the time in.
Definitely.
Okay. I hope you took some things away. I feel like we talked about a whole lot of things. I guess we do that all the time.
This time went by fast.
We try to pack a whole lot into a not so short amount of time. We could talk a lot about a lot of things. All right, everybody, do not forget to follow the podcast on Spotify or Apple so you never miss a new episode. I believe we're going to do one more, and then we will have another special guest.
Mm-hmm.
I already got somebody lined up that I think you guys are going to enjoy hearing from. All right, have a wonderful 2 weeks until we are together again. Thank you for listening.
We almost forgot our question.
Oh.
I got a question.
Oh.
So a question for you guys. You can answer it just like Meredith answered it earlier. How aware are you of your communication with others on a scale of 1 to 10? Where are you at? And then what changes would you make?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I think that's a great, if nothing else, I hope after every single podcast, people at least do that.
Yeah.
How am I doing with whatever topic that is that they talked about? You should be.
Yeah.
Do that, people. Okay. Thank you so much for listening. We appreciate you guys. Until we see you again, peace, love, and easy does it.
Appreciate y'all.